Hi, I'm naturopathic Dr. Tim Salato, and I decided to make a video on depression in which I just wanted to go all out. I wanted to provide all of the information on this video that I would to a patient of my own, whereas most of these videos I'm just going to be kind of making brief top 3 recommendations. Depression is serious, it's no joke, and really it can be debilitating and in some cases, in a way, life-threatening. So bear with me here, I'm going to be reading off of a script that I wrote for this video. First recommendation is sublingual B12, meaning a tablet that is dissolved under the tongue. And folate, and that can be taken once per day, and in some individuals it can be important to have that be methylcobalamin, because some people don't methylate very well, and in those people they can take the cheaper form, cyanocobalamin, and it won't do them any good because they really need that to be methylated, and as is, it just isn't going to be helpful. That's not myself. I can take cyanocobalamin, and it helps me anytime I start feeling kind of down or depressed. Depression is something that I've struggled with in the past many times, and it will recur in me if I don't actively do things to treat it. Second recommendation, which is, I would say, at least equally important, is vitamin D. Vitamin D is not recommended for individuals that have sarcoidosis, and so it might be worth it to make sure that that is a condition that's not present. It's a lung condition, and so given that that's not present, which it won't be in the vast majority of people, about 5,000 IUs per day is generally a recommended amount to get blood levels to where you would want them to be to optimally combat depression. And vitamin D is something that's really important for general health. We're finding more and more the different roles that it has in the body as time goes on. Third recommendation that I have would be omega-3s. Omega-3s can be super important for fighting depression. And I would say between the first 3 recommendations that I have on here, if you're taking all 3 of those in a large number of cases, that is going to hugely impact a person with depression, because those 3 nutrients are extremely common deficiencies in the United States. Very, very common. And a deficiency in any one of those 3 can lead to depression. Next recommendation would be multiple B50 with biotin, or taking biotin separately. A lot of multiple B vitamins don't include biotin because it's a more expensive B vitamin amongst the B vitamins. So in some cases it can be worth it just to buy a general multi-B and then buy the biotin separately, rather than going out and spending on some fancy multi that has all of the bells and whistles. Next recommendation, and these are kind of getting into the less common things that are going to be treating depression, but can still be helpful for a significant number of people. Next recommendation would be vitamin C. 200 milligrams once per day should be enough to lift mood. And a thing to keep in mind with vitamin C is right about that 200 milligram level, and especially anything higher than that, because vitamin C is a water-soluble nutrient, it is something that the body can essentially become dependent on. So it gets used to having a particular amount, and so if you are taking 200 milligrams of vitamin C very consistently and then you stop taking it very suddenly, that can increase likelihood of catching a cold or getting some other kind of infection, viral illness. So it's generally a good idea to sort of taper down from vitamin C if it's going to be taken for really any longer than 3 days in a row at a supplemented amount. Next would be magnesium glycinate, 300 milligrams twice per day, especially if insomnia is something that you're struggling with, which I'll be making a separate video on top 3 recommendations. And 300 milligrams twice per day, especially 30 minutes before bed, is something that in a certain percentage of the population can lift mood. Next recommendation would be actually gentle iron. It's known as iron bisglycinate. And this is more so targeted towards individuals who might be anemic. So if really low energy, I think probably the best single sort of marker without doing labs to know that you might be anemic is if you go up a flight of stairs, that's all it is, just a flight of stairs, and you kind of try and go up it a little quickly, and that's enough to get you out of breath. Either you're really out of shape or you might be anemic, especially if that's not normal for you. In which case, taking iron can not only help with the energy levels, but also help to improve depression. Although iron is something that is not a blanket recommendation that you can make for supplementation. You really should be making sure that there are no blood disorders present. It's a good idea to talk to a doctor first before taking iron or just beginning iron supplementation. But I would recommend, in the case that a doctor okays that, 50 milligrams per day. And if you commonly experience symptoms of hypothyroidism, it may be worth going to see your doctor to see if your thyroid levels are normal. Hypothyroidism is a strikingly common phenomenon in the United States, and can really have people feeling downed and drained. And so I've provided a link in the description that details the symptoms of hypothyroidism, so you can sort of consider whether or not that's something that might be going on with you, and then you can go to a doctor to get those levels checked. Next, I would say if you find yourself getting sick frequently, if you have acne or female hormonal issues or conditions, diseases, those can be signs of a zinc deficiency. While I found this to be less likely to be a cause of depression, zinc deficiency is pretty common in the United States. And it can sometimes cause depression. And so 30 milligrams of zinc picolinate with food should be enough once per day, or 15 milligrams twice per day with food. Or if you find yourself getting sick really easily from zinc, zinc bisglycinate can be a form that is much gentler on the stomach and doesn't necessarily need to be taken with food. And last, but certainly not least, would be to watch your favorite movie. I gotta tell you, there were a lot of times for me going through medical school where I was just not feeling it, and watching something like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or Spider-Man 2, or believe it or not, Hook is actually one of my favorite movies, really lifted my spirits. More than I think hardly anything else could have. And while exercise is definitely something that I would make as a top recommendation, I think most people already know that. And when you're really feeling depressed, exercise is the last thing on the mind. With the clinical depression, finding the time and energy to exercise is not easy to do. And ideally, for somebody who's really feeling down and depressed, they can implement some of these recommendations, get their energy levels up a little bit to the point where now they can go and exercise, because exercise is it's definitely top tier recommendation for depression. But I think most people already know that. But if you didn't, now you know. And I would always say it's a good idea to go see a doctor to make sure that adding any new supplements will be okay with you. There's a multitude of genetic disorders that might make any of these supplements contraindicated, especially if you are already taking any medications. That is absolutely something that you would want to go see a doctor for. And since I know a lot of people that go see naturopathic doctors or are into alternative healthcare would never see a doctor, for the stubborn amongst you out there, I have included an interaction checker so that you can type in any medications that you may or may not be taking, and so you can check with the medications and supplements for whether or not any of those would be interacting with one another. Although I definitely would recommend going to see a doctor over doing your own interaction checking. And I think anytime depression is being discussed, if you are feeling at all suicidal or have implemented the top 4 recommendations and they haven't really been working within an hour or two, because a lot of these can work pretty quickly, and you're still feeling suicidal, you can give the suicide hotline a call at 1-800-273-8255. And I really want you to know that there will always be people out there that do care. There will always be people out there that are willing to talk to you, be there for you. Even if you are feeling like you are alone, it's so easy to reach out to people that are willing to hear your story, to reach out to people that are willing to be there for you. Gosh, even finding communities of other people who are depressed can be something that can be very helpful. A lot of people think that they're alone in their suffering, and that is so very rarely ever true. I mean, you might have a unique case, but the odds that you are the only person in your area that's suffering from depression are pretty much slim to none. And so having people to relate to, I think, can be really helpful and powerful as well. So that's it for this video. I hope that you're feeling fantastic after going through some of these things, going through some of the recommendations made in this video. Once again, I want to stress that it's always a good idea to go see a doctor before implementing any supplement recommendations into a regimen. If you've got any local naturopathic doctors that have graduated from a accredited naturopathic medical school, I highly recommend going to see them. They could do so much good for you and help guide you through this process, certainly better than any video could. So that's all. Signing off for now. Hope everything's going great for you guys. Bye. If you feel that any of the recommendations made in this video have been helpful to you, feel free to donate whatever amount you feel this information has been worth to you in the link below for donating to the business. Or if you are on my webpage, you can go to the Payments Accepted tab, and there will be a drop down for donations. Also, feel free to tell me your story. hearing people's stories is the reason that I became a naturopathic doctor in the first place, and it always brings a really big smile to my face when I hear about how I've impacted someone's life for the better, or they're feeling a lot better because of what I've done for them or information that's been provided.